So yesterday we discussed Plato, right? So today we'll start with Aristotle. Now Aristotle was a student of Plato, okay, and teacher of who? Alexander. Right, now you all know Alexander, so you can just remember all these things so that it will help you in your exams also to remember what these different people have said. Right. So Aristotle, though he was a student of Plato, yet his thought process, his opinion on moral philosophy was quite different from what Plato has said. Okay. In fact, you will find many contrasting things in their philosophies. Like Plato, he called for moral universalism. But Aristotle, he said that ethics are relative in nature and any study of ethics must take this thing into account, a particular situation of a human being. Right. So, daily life, his ground realities must be taken into regard while deciding what is right and what is wrong. So, compare Aristotle and Plato, so it will be easy for you people to understand them also. Right. So, this was the first thing, that ethics are relative. Second thing is that he wanted moral philosophy to be developed as a practical science. Plato was more considered with theorizing, okay, knowledge just for the sake of knowledge. But Aristotle said that this moral philosophy knowledge must have some real practical workability. Okay, it should be used by people. It should be designed in such manner only. Got it? So this was the basic background of what Aristotle has to say. Right. So just 2 lines about it. As per Aristotle, comma, there are no known absolute moral standards. There are no known absolute moral standards and any ethical theory must be firmly grounded in the realities of human nature and daily life. Okay, so this was the first perspective he provided. Second thing that he said, that ethics falls under the category of practical sciences. Ethics fall under the category of practical sciences since its concern is not knowledge for its own sake, but rather for the purpose of application. Okay. Now the first idea is summum bonum. Summum bonum. This term was coined by Cicero. Okay. Now what does summum bonum mean? It basically means the highest good or the ultimate end of every human activity. The highest good or the ultimate end of any human activity. Right. And what is the ultimate end as per these virtue ethicists? Happiness. Okay. And as per Aristotle, how this happiness can be achieved? Through rationality. Okay. The endeavor of human being is to, is to achieve his maximum potential as a rational being. Are you getting my point? See, when we are born, we are in complete chaos. Complete anarchy is there. We are doing things on a trial and error method. But slowly and steadily, things become more arranged. Are you getting my point? Arrangement hota hai, life becomes more and more rational. And this is the aim of life also, to achieve maximum rationality. Are you getting my point? More rational you will be, more happy you will get. Rationality was directly proportional to happiness as per Aristotle. It's all about rationality. Okay. In fact, this word telos was used. Telos, which means end. The ultimate end. Okay. So, we all start from chaos, but then we move towards a particular order. In fact, in many management studies also this thing is there, that every organization also it starts with the chaos, but slowly and steadily it moves towards objectivity. It becomes more and more rational in nature. Okay. In fact, he said that if you want to achieve rationality, then just add why in front of after every question. Like for example, if I ask you, suppose some of you are going to gym. Okay. I ask you why you are going to gym. So what will be your answer? To get fit. Why you want to get fit? Sorry? Attract potential mates. Why you want to attract potential mates? Why you want to extend it? What will happen if desires are fulfilled? Happiness. End of every human activity is happiness only. Okay. And we can reach this thing through asking why. Why this particular thing has been done. Okay. So this was his idea, and happiness again only through rationality. Irrational life will only lead to chaos and dissatisfaction. Got it? So this was his first idea. Just एक line लिखो उसमें, nothing more. Our function in life is to realize. Our function in life is to realize our full potential as rational beings. If we are not fully rational, comma, we are falling short of our true nature. Okay. Now again, as I told you, that Aristotle was a virtue ethicist. Right in the starting, that all these, Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, they were all virtue ethicists. Okay. So Aristotle, he divided these virtues into two categories. First category was moral virtues and second was intellectual virtues. Okay. Now what are moral virtues? Those four which were given by Plato. Okay. Same thing he also said. Right. So just again, this thing is a bit factual in nature. Aristotle categorized virtues categorized virtues as moral virtues and intellectual virtues. Okay, moral virtues includes those 4 cardinal virtues. ये लिख लो. Moral virtues includes those 4 cardinal virtues of Plato only. And intellectual virtues include theoretical and practical wisdom. Theoretical and practical wisdom. Okay, like in integrity we discussed. क्या डिस्कस किया था? Intellectual integrity and moral integrity. So moral integrity will come when you will follow your moral virtues, and intellectual integrity will come when this intellectual virtues will be followed. Intellectual virtues, basically your belief system also comes under it only. Okay, like efficiency, economy, these are basically intellectual virtues. Like for a civil servant, diplomacy can be a virtue. Okay, so diplomacy is an intellectual virtue. Now, one very important statement which was made by Aristotle, and it also raises a very important question about the applicability of ethical education. Okay, what he said, just write it down and then I'll discuss it. We learn virtues primarily through habit and practice, rather than reasoning and instructions. Okay, so Aristotle, what was his basic idea? That we cannot teach ethics in a classroom. This was his idea. Okay, now this thing raises a question on utility of value education. If this question comes, see, UPSC again asks these questions only. I mean, does value education has any relevance? Can we teach ethics in a classroom? Yes. What shall be the answer for this question?
Yes, we can, but it needs further practice.
Last year, one IPS officer was caught cheating. I think Safir Karim was Asif, some Karim was there. Okay, he caught cheating, and apparently he scored good marks in ethics paper, around 106, I think. Somebody was telling me. So, again, it's a direct example which shows that ethics education is not very fruitful. So, what do you think? What is the applicability?
So we can engage the students in dialogue system so that they can practice.
You can say that it is important, but it is only one aspect of value education, not the only aspect. See, in fact,
ethics can be taught, but being ethical needs
practice. See, the first thing, like Plato also found it a bit problematic to teach ethics. Okay, in fact, Plato, what he talked about? He talked about classroom teaching. He said that ethics can be taught. But in fact, while going through different things, like in his university also, he found it very difficult to find good teachers for ethics. He said that I am getting good teachers for swordsmanship, for governance, but it is very difficult to find me good teachers for teaching ethics. Why? And then he analyzed over the problem, and then he said one very important line, that ethics are caught rather than taught. Ethics are caught by people rather than taught. In fact, community is the pond from which ethics can be caught. Are you getting my point? This was his idea. Community is a pond from which ethics can be caught. So basically what he was trying to suggest, Plato Plato said that yes, I mean this school-based value education, it is important, but it is only the first step towards being ethical. The same thing must be reinforced at community level. In fact, all the agencies of socialization, they have equal responsibility of inculcating values in children. Are you getting my point? In India, what happens? What happens in India? Child learns equality, fraternity in school, and when he comes home, what he finds? He finds gender discrimination at home. He finds class and caste discrimination in society. Okay, fraternity, religion. I mean, father says that this Hindu or Muslim is bad. Okay, we should stay with our community. So there is no fraternity, there is no tolerance. So what happened? There is a confusion in the child. He never sees the applicability of what he has read in the school or what he has learned there. Are you getting my point? So this thing needs to get removed. So if this question comes, you will start with the utility of value education. That yes, it do play some utility. It exposes a child toward different ethical idea. I mean, this is the first step. The first step towards being ethical is to understand what ethics are. Okay, and this is done by value education. But this is only the first step and not the last one. Are you understanding this point? In fact, Kohlberg also said this thing, that value education is an important factor to inculcate values, especially in the early years of a child's life, in his stages of moral development. He said that value education do play a role. So you can quote Kohlberg here. Lawrence Kohlberg, we discussed him, na? Stages of moral development. So he said that yes, value education do plays a role. Okay, and then you can write this logic also, that in order to become ethical, first of all you need to understand what ethics are. You must be exposed to ethical ideas. Are you getting my point? After that, so the other agencies will play their role. The community has to play the role. Like in ancient and medieval India, this thing was successful. Takshila, your Nalanda, different universities are there, and value education was there in them. Okay, and they used to, and many, I mean, people with high value standards came out of these universities. But what was the modus operandi in these universities? कैसे operate करती थी? They usually operated on Gurukul system. Okay, that the person used to live in these universities. He used to spend all his time, his full day in these universities only. Okay, same goes with the Gurukul system also. Okay, what is the procedure in these Gurukuls? क्या होता था Gurukuls में? I mean, no matter from where the child is coming, whether he is coming from a royal family or a poor family of Brahmin, all of the children, they will live an equal life. Okay, they will live a life of hard work. In fact, they will collect alms from people in order to fill their stomachs. Are you getting my point? A very humble life they used to live. And only when that humility, again, this thing is also there. In Gurukul system, first of all, humility was taught. Being humble, and only when you accept your ignorance, you become humble, then only you will be able to learn things. And then things were not only taught by the gurus, but they were also practiced by students in Gurukul environment. Okay, and that is why values were inculcated. They were internalized by children. But that thing is not happening in India. Okay. So Plato came up with this problem that ethics education is the first step, not the last step. This was his idea. But Aristotle said that we cannot teach them through learning. We can only teach them through practice and habit. Now what he is referring to? Application. See, Plato also talked about application. But what Aristotle said, see, we discussed that attitude behavior link. Plato said, provide good information. Okay, provide the conditions under which the value behavior can be shown. So change the attitude and it will bring about a change in behavior of the child. But what Aristotle said, he said, बच्चे का तो attitude है ही नहीं, nothing है. What you do, behavior पे concentrate करो. Okay, make him practice ethics in the society, and then he himself will learn the idea of attitude. He will develop a positive attitude towards values. So Plato ने इसका बात किया, and Aristotle talked about this. Are you understanding the idea? See, this question is very important, value education question, and it is due in exam. Sooner or later, UPSC is going to ask this question. Okay, that what is the applicability? What is the utilization of value education? And then you have to write all these examples. A multi-pronged strategy is required. You will start with, yes, certain benefits of value education. It is the first step. Kohlberg has also ruled in favor of it, but it is only the first, not the last one. Other things are also required. Multi-pronged strategy. Community has to play its role. All the agencies, family, religious institutions, social institutions, they will play their role. Okay. And apart from that, habit and practice also needs to be done as suggested by Aristotle. ओके कब आएगा मजा उसके अंदर आंसर में? इंक्लूड गुरुकुल सिस्टम, इंक्लूड योर दिस तक्षशिला नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी. थोड़ा वैरायटी आए, अच्छे वर्ड्स आने चाहिए आंसर में. इंक्लूड जापानीज सिस्टम. जापानीज सिस्टम क्या है? इन द फर्स्ट 4 or 5 years of schooling, I mean, no formal education is there, only habit and practice. Okay, they are asked, in fact, in many schools, children, they clean their toilets. Okay, what will happen? They will develop a positive attitude towards hygiene and cleanliness. अभी एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल आया था ये वर्ल्ड कप से. Okay, I mean, Japanese fans, they clean their stands before leaving, and the team also, they clean that क्या बोलते हैं उसको, room, dressing room. Okay. And in the end, they also leave that message, thank you. So, I mean, अब देखो कितना easy था. Okay, most of the people have read about this example, and now you can apply it to your ethics paper. Current से भी हो जाएगा. If you will be able to write these examples, certainly you are going to get good marks. Okay, so this was the whole idea of moral education. So, if a question is there, you should be able to write a good answer on it. Okay. Then you can write those things also, those recent वो happiness curriculum जो Delhi government ने introduce किया है. Okay, I think I told you na in when I was discussing role of educational institutions, happiness curriculum has been added. Your that Ramakrishna mission value education के ऊपर, yes. Philosophy of one classroom is the philosophy of government in the next. Okay, so जैसे वो last year there was a essay also that destiny of a nation is shaped in its classroom. So उसने कितना, you can start with this quote. Okay, so this is the thing. Now moral education is done. Now the next thing which Aristotle talked about is doctrine of mean. Okay, what is this doctrine? That virtue exists, just write one line and then I explain it. Virtue exists as a mean state. Virtue exists as a mean state between the vicious extremes, of excess and deficiency. Okay, so basically what he wants to say is that excess of anything is bad, and virtues lies right in middle of the vices. Like courage is a virtue. If no courage is there, excessive absence of courage, what it will become? Cowardice. A person will be called a coward. And if too much courage is there, I mean, no matter what will come, I will stand in front of a lion. Rashlessness. Okay. Or you can also call it foolhardiness. Okay. Okay. Modesty is a virtue. Right. If too much modesty is there, what will become? Shyness. And if no modesty is there, shamelessness. Okay, self-control is a virtue. बिल्कुल नहीं है. So excessive repression. And here excessive indulgence. Justice is a virtue. Now what do we mean by justice? Giving people what they deserve. Or it is a virtue which lies between giving too less or giving too much. यहीं से उसका डॉक्ट्राइन ऑफ मीन से the idea of justice has also come. Now see, UPSC is not going to ask only this question that what is doctrine of mean as given by Aristotle. It will also ask what's its utility in present context, or let's say what's its utility for civil servants. So how you will answer it? कैसे करोगे आंसर भाई? क्या यूटिलिटी लगता है आपको सिविल सर्विसेज में? Should civil servant, he should always work on extremes. Should always take a middle path. Like for example, transparency. He has to balance between transparency and confidentiality. If he becomes too much transparent, what will happen? It will lead to problems for government. It may breach right to privacy. Okay, confidential information can be taken, can be acquired by the enemies of the nation. Are you getting my point? So too much transparency is also bad. He needs empathy and compassion. He needs it. But if too much empathy and compassion is there, what will happen? It can thwart developmental processes. For example, land acquisition is there. You want to acquire land from farmers, but because you were so emotional towards them, you are not able to do that thing. Sometimes hardships needs to be taken. Okay. We discussed that committed bureaucracy, right? Again, it's a virtue only, it lies between politicized bureaucracy and neutral bureaucracy. Neutral means nothing is there, and politicized complete devotion to a particular party. What we need is basically committed bureaucracy.
So what will be the problem when we are more just extreme justice will so
See, it depends upon your definition of justice. Justice, sorry? See, sometimes it's not only about justice. Like for example, this juvenile delinquency cases. Okay, it's not always about justice. I mean, you should not take everything in the context of right and wrong only. Sometimes you also have to show mercy. Sometimes forgiveness needs to be shown. Okay, excessive justice is also bad. Okay, I mean, to err is human. Okay, human beings do commit error. It doesn't mean कि उसको बस डाल दो जेल के अंदर. Got it? So, are you understanding? I mean, how you can apply like very strict laws and rules. They will also lead to problem, and very lenient rules and regulations, they will also cause problem. So, a middle order strictness is required. Some strictness only, not complete. Okay, so this is how you can apply this principle in context of civil services. And what values must be required for having this middle path approach? Temperance and tolerance. Temperance as suggested by Plato. Plato also to some extent he was in congruence with this idea. That is why he suggested temperance. Okay, so temperance and tolerance are required. Got it? In fact, if a question is there on doctrine of mean, you can also write about Buddha's middle path. So just make a passing by reference of Buddha's middle path. Okay, among individual what is required? It's all about linkages only. In attitude, what is required? We need a balance between emotions and cognitions, or rationality as you suggest. Okay, rationality though is not an appropriate word. Cognitions and emotions balance needs to be there. Okay, mind and heart balance, in simple words you can say. Okay, it's all about the application only. Like the summum bonum hai. We discussed na highest good. Now different people have suggested different highest goods. Like they said, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates said that happiness is the highest good. What Buddhism says, what is the highest good? Nirvana. Nirvana is the highest good. Okay, Bhagavad Gita says moksha is the highest good. Right. Like Descartes has said that rationality is the highest good. Okay. What is the highest good for a civil servant? Public services, public interest. Okay, so if a question is there, try to provide 3 or more perspectives. जितना variety आएगा, उतना marks आएगा. ठीक है? So I hope this idea of doctrine of mean is clear to you guys. Okay, now I'll come to Aristotle's idea of justice. In fact, he defined justice in multiple contexts. Okay, see, this idea was given by Aristotle, and this is another way of defining corrective justice. Okay, this was not given by Aristotle. This was given by Aristotle, this idea. Done. Now see, justice. Justice can be divided into universal justice and particular justice. Universal justice, which is applied to all, irrespective of the context of a particular individual, nothing is taken, it must be there for all. Okay, this is of two types. First is individual justice, that is being virtuous. By being virtuous, you can lead to justice in individual life. Okay, and these virtues can be moral virtues as well as intellectual virtues. Okay, इसमें how he has defined it, individual justice. Just write one line, individual justice. Individual justice, what he has said, it is a moral disposition. It is a moral disposition which renders men apt to do just things, which renders man apt to do just things and wish for just. Okay, so basically a tendency to do just and wish for just also. So individual justice. And again, how you will assure justice in polity? By following the law, by abiding by the law which is there. Okay, so he has talked about political justice also, one line you can write. Power to be distributed among the virtuous. Power to be distributed among the virtuous and not among all. And not among all. Okay, I mean power is going to be there only among virtuous, not those people who are wise, who have vices. Okay, now one very important thing he has talked about justice is that it can only be assured through law. Okay, justice only exists where mutual relations are controlled by law. Okay, so in bracket you can also write, like we have this topic, applicability of laws and regulations for ensuring ethics. Okay, so there you can write this quote of Aristotle. What he has to say about the importance of law. That justice will only get assured if law is there. In fact, Indian philosophy has also said this thing, that dharma can only be possible through rule of law. Okay. Now comes particular justice, justice that will take place on individual basis. Again divided into two categories. First is distributive justice, how things are distributed among people, whether the relationships between people are just or unjust. This is what we call distributive justice. Okay. Again, social justice and economic justice. Social justice, whereas every person has an equal position in the society or not. And economic justice, fair distribution of benefits and burdens also, you can say, of resources. Okay. This is distributed. And then comes corrective justice. If something wrong has been done by an individual, then it can be divided into civil justice and criminal justice. Civil justice basically means when some problem occurs between two individuals. What will happen if someone has committed fraud on you? What will happen? What will be the procedure? You have to go to the court for the redressal. Automatically police will not register the case. पुलिस में तो नहीं जाओगे ना आप सिविल केस के लिए. For civil case you will directly go to court. But in case of criminal case, you do a wrong thing against the state, and the state will automatically register a case. Suppose a murder has been committed. I mean the relatives of the person who has been murdered, doesn't mean that they have to go and only then the FIR will be lodged. Okay, FIR will be lodged automatically. नहीं आई बात समझ में? Are you getting my point? This is the idea. Civil and criminal, you are understanding? In civil, crime is there against an individual, but in criminal, crime is there against the state. Okay. Now, there is another way of defining corrective justice. Corrective justice, also known as rectificatory justice and remedial justice, so don't get confused. These are all equal words. Maybe in field of law, maybe we can differentiate them a bit, but not in GS. Okay, and it can be of three types: deterrent form of justice, proportional form or retributive justice, reformative justice or restorative justice. Again, same meaning, so don't get confused. What is deterrent form of justice? Deterrent में क्या होता है? More punishment than the crime. Like for example, capital punishment. Okay, or like in Middle East, for example, if you are found stealing, your hands will be chopped. There is no security in malls. If you will visit Dubai, वहाँ पे security होता है, यहाँ तो होता है ना, when you go inside checking होगा proper, all those measures are taken. There is not much security because there is a deterrence among people. Are you getting my point? So basically इसमें एक line भी होता है कि you are punished for not stealing the sheep, but to make sure that the sheep may not get stolen. Are you understanding my point? You are not punished for stealing the sheep. You are punished so that the sheep may not get stolen. Okay, to establish a strong precedent, deterrent form of punishment or justice is followed. ठीक है. Proportional form of justice, punishment will be given as per the nature of crime. Okay, if murder has been committed in a fit of rage, then 7 years of punishment. But if it's a cold-blooded murder, 12 years of punishment. If it's a massacre, lifetime imprisonment. Okay, as per the nature. Indian system is based on what? Proportional system. Okay, in fact in Mahabharata also proportional system has been advocated. Okay, and then reformative justice. In reformative justice what happens? Punishment is less than the crime. Why? What is the basic ideology behind this form of justice? That whenever a crime takes place, it is not only the problem, the mistake of criminal, but also the mistake of society. Nobody is born as a criminal. Okay, and if something wrong happens, then society also has to take the responsibility for that. So basically it works for the proper rehabilitation of the criminal. Hate the crime, not the criminal is based on reformative or restorative justice. Reform the criminal. Okay, restorative, restore word से आता है. Okay, restore the society in the earlier position. Like some crime has happened, so it will disbalance the society. The equilibrium will get disbalanced. And by reforming, we can restore the society to its earlier position. Got it? Now one more, now what UPSC will ask? They will ask not rectificatory or these justice, they will ask whether we should take revenge or we should show forgiveness towards people? This simplistic question will be asked. Whether we should take revenge or we should forgive people. What is better? Tell me. See, अब देखो चलो. See, basically, again, you have to give logic also here. Okay. See, Indian system, as I told you, it is based on proportional justice. Okay. See what happens when a crime is committed against a person. This is the society. All people are equal here. Okay. But suppose B commits a crime against A. What will happen? It will lower down the dignity of A and he will come here. Okay. And if no punishment is given to B, then he will go here. So this thing basically creates a disbalance in the society, and when the punishment is given to B, again the same position is restored. Equal dignity is given to all individuals. Are you getting my point? Then you can give example from Mahabharata also, that Draupadi wanted revenge for her molestation and there was nothing wrong in it. Bhai, revenge chahti thi Draupadi. So basically what this justice, what this punishment or revenge do, it leads to status quo. It brings back the society in its original position. So status quo maintain kar diya revenge ne. Okay. But in the end of Mahabharata, it has been clearly said that status quo can be maintained through revenge, but progress can only take place through forgiveness. Are you understanding this idea? Like what happened after the war, after the Kurukshetra, that war was over, what happened? Yudhishthira went to क्या नाम था कौरवास की मदर का? मदर पंचाली सोचते रहोगे. हाँ, Gandhari, yes. Okay. So he went to Gandhari for forgiveness. That, see, I have committed many wrongs, I have killed all your 100 sons, so please forgive me for that thing. Okay. Why? Because unless that forgiveness is not shown, that sense of closure will not come. And again things will keep repeating on itself. Like now I have killed your son, later on, their sons will come and they will kill my sons. So the cycle will keep on repeating. Okay. So what a person should do is, he should show remorse. He should ask for forgiveness.
In Indian mythology, they always follow revenge. Like they go across worlds to take revenge of previous worlds also.
वो karma है. That is a karma. That's a law of nature. Okay, if you have done something wrong, then karma, God will punish you, not the other guy, okay, against which the crime has been committed. See, again, it's a very complex thing. Okay, but I am trying to provide you an answer if this question comes in exam. Got it? Through forgiveness only, things can go forward. Then you can give example of this, let's say 1984 Sikh riots. The Sikh community has to forgive people. They have, yes, some mistake was committed. Okay, so the politician also, what should be the role of politician? They should show some remorse. They should ask for forgiveness. Yes, I was not able to, Congress must say that we were not able to take appropriate actions. Okay, and we are sorry for that. Okay, so what will happen? Just this sorry, it will lead to a sense of closure. If Modi ji would have said after those Gujarat riots, then I am really sorry, there were certain mistakes committed on the part of government machinery, they were completely unintentional, but I feel really sorry for that because thousands of people got killed. The whole issue will get resolved. There will be no remorse, there will be no feeling of revenge among particular community. कोई revenge ही नहीं होगा फिर. Bhai, he is sorry for his mistake. But this thing is never shown by Indian politicians, and this is a problem.
For the example that UK Prime Minister came and visited
हाँ जलियांवाला बाग ही इनफैक्ट वो जापान और उसमें भी ओबामा ऑल्सो विजिटेड हिरोशिमा नागासाकी एंड दिस जापानीज वो पर्ल हार्बर गए थे. इनफैक्ट कैनेडा आई थिंक लास्ट ईयर ही इट अपोलोजाइज फॉर दैट कोमागाटामारू इंसिडेंट. सो क्या होता है, a sense of closure is there. Person is relieved. There is no more that particular feeling of revenge inside him. कि चलो now matter is resolved. Now we can move forward. ठीक है. So try to understand this idea. I mean try to introspect on this idea and certainly you will feel enlightened. महाभारत इसी का ही है. कह रहे कब तक लड़ते रहेंगे. तो फाइनली युधिष्ठिर गए और भाई मेरे को आप फॉरगिव करो, आई एम रियली सॉरी. ठीक है. दिस इज द आइडिया इफ दिस क्वेश्चन कम्स. पूछा था, पूछा नहीं है ऐसे के अंदर, ऐसे के एथिक्स में नहीं है. So again see, you can write all the views, you can write this logic also, that revenge is many times necessary, but again it depends on the person. If the person really feels sorry for that thing, if he is asking for forgiveness, then certainly it can be shown, but it will only be there if there is a change of heart. The person is really sorry about what he has done. If no remorse is shown by him, then certainly forgiveness is not an option. Remorse, अब जैसे दुर्योधना ने कभी रिमोर्स शो नहीं किया फॉर व्हाट ही हैज डन, सो फाइनली रिवेंज वाज देयर. हाँ,
there can be a case where the person forgives the other person, but still he wants the justice, like the due process of justice should take place.
Yes, it will, but maybe a lower punishment can be given. See, some punishment needs to be there. ये नहीं कि बिल्कुल फ्री कर दोगे आप उसको, but suppose like death penalty is there, so at least reduce it. Okay, life imprisonment पे डाल दो, and in that also he should work like a normal being. Open jail में डाल दो. Okay, so again see, the finer details will depend upon the particular case itself, what the case has been, but the general idea will remain this. हाँ, community service होता है. जैसे अभी जैसे ये अरविंद केजरीवाल व्हाट ही डिड, like unintentionally he said something wrong about Sikh religion. So what he did, he went to Golden Temple and did that seva. वो सेवा कहते हैं ना उसको, like shoe polishing and working in the langar. Okay, so that thing was done. So क्या हुआ, foreign closure आ गया. He said sorry and close. This is a very good thing with Aam Aadmi Party, that they don't feel ashamed of saying sorry. Okay, closure आ जाता है मैटर पे. All three forms are there in some. See, juvenile, earlier we had reformative, now it has turned into proportional. अभी तो उन्होंने कर दिया ना कि they can be treated as adults depending upon the nature of crime. Okay, so वो proportional. Usually this is the basic idea. The basic idea is proportional one only. In India philosophy also proportional system has been given importance. ठीक है, Middle East में deterrent form है. In Scandinavian countries reformative form. Again it depends upon the evolution of society, how developed it is. वहाँ स्वीडन वगैरह में some report was also there कि जेल खाली पड़े हुए हैं, they don't know what they do. Okay, in fact वो उनको शायद म्यूजियम वगैरह में या रेस्टोरेंट्स वगैरह में कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं. In fact प्लान भी कर रहे हैं कि you can pay money and you can spend a night in jail. एक वो टूरिज्म है एक तरीके का. You will get a feel of jail then. Okay. So this is the thing. Details थोड़ा बहुत जो factual वगैरह है, it is there in your booklet also. चलो. So this is done. Aristotle, this idea was there. Finally he also talked about friendship. एक friendship का idea और लिख लो. थोड़ा we are going very slow. Okay. He said that happiness is a public affair. Okay, and with whom we share our happiness is of great significance. With whom we share our happiness is of great significance. Okay, basically three type of friendships we talked about: friendship based on utility, based on pleasure, and based on character. Okay, and friendship based on character is much more strong and long lasting than other two forms of friendship. Okay, now this thing is done. Now see, after the death of Aristotle, the whole studies on moral philosophy in ancient Greek, there was a decline in it. In fact, there was not even a single scholar who raised up to the stature of these three. Right. Apart from that, two small schools were there. The first was Epicureanism, started by Epicurus. Epicurus. Okay. Now again, just two very small ideas are there. I mean, Epicureanism and both Stoicism, these two schools were there. They were more concerned with individual rather than society. That what individual must do. Okay. So first of all, how it defined justice? Described justice as a social agreement. Epicurus, he defined justice as a social agreement. Okay. That is neither to harm nor get harmed. Neither to harm and not be harmed. I mean, why do you live in a society with rules and regulations? What's the objective? Self, so that you can be saved from the harm done by others, and in a safe environment you can pursue your happiness. Okay, I mean, this logic is often given by those candidates in interview who choose IPS over IAS. Okay, for IAS, developmental work, all these things are required, but law and order, a safe environment is a precondition for development to take place. So IAS cannot work if IPS is not providing security to him. Okay, so this logic is basically given by these candidates. Okay, so just write two lines. The point of living in society with laws and punishment is to be protected from harms. So that one is free to pursue happiness. Okay, and then they also gave some initial idea of utilitarianism, that pleasure and pain are the main reasons for human actions. This was the second point. Pleasure and pain are the main reasons for our actions. Reasons for our action. Basically, pure pleasure is the supreme end, whereas pain the supreme evil. Okay. In fact, but they again categorize pleasure into two heads: pleasures of soul are superior than, are more, in fact superior as well as durable than pleasure of body. Pleasure of soul, pleasure of body, like knowledge is a pleasure of soul. Philosophy is a nectar for soul, for human soul. Okay, and having a pizza in कहाँ मिलता है ये Domino's पे. Okay, it is a pleasure of body, right? One last thing इसमें एक ये लिख लो कि I mean they said that soul is mortal, it dies with body itself. Human soul is mortal and it disappears with the destruction of body. So there is no concept of birth, rebirth. Okay, this was Epicureanism, nothing much. In fact, the people, they just again that old violin new bottle wala case tha. Nothing new was there. The next school was Stoicism. Followers of these schools were called Stoics. The school started by Zeno, and many followers were there, Seneca, and one most important one was Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, great Roman emperor. Okay. हाँ, दो इनफैक्ट कई बुक्स लिखे हैं इसमें. Now again basically four ideas were there in Stoicism. The first idea is value. Okay, he said that the only thing which is valued in this world is a rational mental state. Rationality is the ultimate end, like what Aristotle said. The same idea was given by him also. Okay, that we should be rational. Like other things like money, fame, lust, they are also valued by people, but again only when they are in congruence with your rationality. Like for example, while preparing for your exam, you want to become, for IAS, you are losing your health. Okay, like in normal circumstances, people what they do? They lose their health in order to earn money, and later on they lose their money in order to gain health. So what's the rationality behind it? So in that case, money earning is not rational, so it is not good, it should not be valued. Okay, this was their idea. First thing is value. The only thing that is truly good, is an excellent rational mental state. Rational mental state which can be achieved through reason and virtue. Okay, then you can give this money health example. Okay, next thing is emotions. They talked about emotions. What we discussed about emotions? क्या डिस्कस किया था कि emotions are nothing but the cognitive appraisals of us. Okay, emotions are in our hand. It depends upon our judgment, and the same thing has said by Stoics also. So just write it down. Emotions are the result of our judgments. Emotions are the result of our judgments, comma, of thinking that something good or bad is happening, of thinking that something good or bad is happening or going to happen. Therefore, they are within our control therefore they are within our control. Do not repress or deny emotions. But embrace correct emotions. Okay. Now suppose a question is there on emotional intelligence. So write one perspective from moral philosophy also. Stoics के बारे में लिख देना. When you are writing about Stoics, write about emotional intelligence. Okay. Third thing they talked about is nature. Nature. Okay. Now Stoics said that one should remain in harmony with nature. Okay, you should maintain a will which should be harmony. Like suppose you will to earn lot of money, or let's say your will is there to own a luxury car. But if it is polluting the environment, that thing will go against nature. One person must understand that he is just a very small part of the nature. Okay, there are many things which he can control, but there are many things which he cannot control, like life and death. Okay, and if he will try to control these things, then it will only lead to frustration. He will bound to get frustrated. Okay, so he must understand the superiority of nature. Got it? So nature, one should live in harmony. Just write this line: one should live in harmony with nature. One should acknowledge that he or she is a small part of larger organic whole, and processes which are out of our control. We can change many things. But we cannot, or you can write, we cannot, but some we cannot change. We can change many things, but some we cannot change, and we must accept this fact. Okay. Example is life and death. You can say life and death cannot be controlled. Okay. And the final thing they talked about is control. Okay. Basic idea is that a person can control only himself. He can control only his internal judgment, but not the judgment of other people. Okay. गांधी जी ने क्या बोला था? Be the change you want to see in this world. If you want to change your external environment, you have to change yourself, because you are also the part of this environment only. Okay. So if you will try to control other people, like this is usually happens also. You will try to control your parents, your wife, okay, which is almost impossible. Or one can say that she tries to control you. So, I mean, they will always yield a negative result. Got it? So control over internal judgments and emotions. Control over internal judgments and emotions can only lead to happiness. If we try to control external things, over which we have no control, comma, we are bound to get frustrated. Okay, in fact this is basically a debate between human freedom and cosmic determinism. Human freedom and cosmic determinism. Right. So this is where we end this thing. Right, ancient moral philosophy done. Now we'll come to medieval moral philosophy, and again it's very less by now what had happened in the medieval history of Europe. Church came into being. In fact, it led to a fall of Roman Empire, and the church started dominating the whole community. So, basically, in this era, the debate was between the theist and the atheist. Theist, those who believe in God; atheist, who do not belong. Okay. Now, what was the basic argument of atheists? Theists, they believe that there is a God who is benevolent, who is omnipotent, who is omnipresent, who is omniscience. Okay, a person who knows everything, who is present everywhere, and who is the most powerful. Okay, but what atheists used to say? Atheists क्या बोलते थे? They say that if your God is so powerful, then why he let evil to exist? Okay, and this was the classic question of medieval era, and how it was resolved? अरे नहीं, killing atheists नहीं था. Basically, Saint Augustine came up with the idea of free will. Okay, क्या था ये free will? Basically what he said, that yes, God has created human beings, but God has also given human beings the free will. Free will basically means that they have the ability to decide what is right and what is wrong for them. So I have created them, and if they do something wrong and then something wrong happens to them, then it is completely their mistake. I have no role to play in it. Are you getting my point? So basically it also showcases law of karma, that evil exists because of your karma. It is not because of me. Okay, evil is not an entity in itself. It basically showcases the absence of God. Okay, wherever God is not there, evil will come. Okay, just like darkness. Darkness is not an entity in itself, it just showcases the absence of light. Got it? Absence of light ही तो है. So free will का concept दिया कि free will is there with human, they can decide about themselves. And in fact, this free will only make them unique also. In Indian philosophy also this concept is there. Like in Mahabharata only, when the war was just going to start, Draupadi went to Lord Krishna and asked her that you have all the power with you, why don't you change the mind of Duryodhana? You can manipulate anyone. So manipulate Duryodhana, change his mindset, the war will be averted. So at that time Krishna also said this thing, that I can only persuade, but I cannot force anyone to take the decisions. The free will is there, and it is on the human beings only to decide what choice they have to make. Okay, and what will happen if I take away the free will of human beings? Everything will get finished. Then it will be just another animal. It will be just a machine world. With robots or humans, what's the difference? This free will is a difference. Okay. So basically, if I take, I mean, in order to remove evil from this world, I have to take the free will of human beings. And that is not possible. That is why evil is there. Okay, so this is the idea. And this is what Saint Augustine also suggested. Right? थोड़े कॉन्सेप्ट आप लोगों के भी क्लियर होंगे फिलॉसफी के इनको लेके. चलो थोड़ा सा लिखो इसमें. Classic question of Christian theology is that how can God, who is supposed to be omnipotent, omnipresent, benevolent, and omniscience, allow evil to exist. Allow evil to exist. Saint Augustine answer to this question was based on the concept of free will. Is based on the concept of free will. God created human beings as rational creatures. As rational creatures. It means they can distinguish between good and bad. They can distinguish between good and bad. And God has given them complete freedom. And God has given them complete freedom to choose and perform actions. So if the person does something wrong, the responsibility lies with the men. The responsibility lies with the men and not God. Okay, one more line. To remove evil, God also has to remove the free will. Has to remove the free will of human beings. Okay. So basically this law of karma is suggested by Saint Augustine. For every action there is a reaction. Okay. In fact, Krishna also paid for his misdeeds. Lord Krishna, because he was incarnated as a human being. So all the laws which were there on human beings were also applied on him. Okay, later on what happened? His whole clan got destroyed. In fact, he himself was also killed as an ordinary creature. Right. So these things are there. In Augustine, you can also write that he also initiated work on just war theory. Just write this line. He also initiated work on just war theory. Okay. I mean, usually you cannot overwrite karma. If you have done something wrong, you have to pay for that. But Indian philosophy at present time also suggests that through bhakti, through devotion, you can overwrite karma. By chanting the name of God, you can overwrite your karma. जैसे वो नाम होते हैं ना, 1000 God के 1100 names are there. These 100. So what are these things? Basically taking the name, taking the name of, कुछ बोलते हैं इस exercise को, I am forgetting the name. Okay, chanting the name of God. It has the power. I mean, it is a method which has been suggested for Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, take the name of God and your bad deeds will be overwritten. जाप, हाँ वो जाप तो वो उस एक्सरसाइज को कहते हैं, बट देयर इज अ नेम टू दिस प्रोसेस, आई एम फॉरगेटिंग द नेम. वो तो एक पर्यायवाची बता दिया आपने, नथिंग एल्स. ठीक है, चलो, दिस इज द आइडिया. नाउ सेंट ऑगस्टीन, नथिंग मच इज देयर बिकॉज उसमें फिर रिलीजियस एस्पेक्ट आ जाएगा. वी आर नॉट कंसिडर्ड विद दैट. नेक्स्ट इज थॉमस एक्यूनस. Okay, basically he tried to apply logic in order to prove the existence of God. Okay, he said that like action reaction hota hai, right? So who took the first action? I mean, life is all about action reaction. We do something and because of that something else is done, but someone would have initiated it. Okay, so the guy who initiated this reaction was God. Okay, so he gave many reason-based arguments in order to prove the existence of God. Okay, he said that the marvels of this world cannot be explained without God. Okay, in fact, I told you yesterday also, Stephen Hawking has also said the same thing, that if we are able to give a comprehensive theory which explains the working of universe, then we will get a glimpse of the mind of God. Okay, so this reason he gave. Try to prove the existence of God through reason. Then he also gave 3 principles of just war theory. He gave certain principles. Just war theory के principles दिए थे. Okay, like the first principle which he talked about was that war should be the last resort. War is the last resort. Okay, then another principle was the expected good must outweigh the cost of killing and destruction. The expected good must outweigh the cost of killing and destruction. What happened in Iraq and Afghanistan? More killing and destruction took place than the good achieved from it. Okay, and the last is, a war should be a defense against aggression. A war should be a defense against aggression or an attempt to stop atrocities. Okay, then he was a virtue ethicist and supporter of Plato and Aristotle. So if I say supporter of Aristotle and Plato, it means all the ideas which are there for Plato and Aristotle can be applied here also. Okay, he supported 4 cardinal virtues, but along with those 4 he also came up with his own 3 virtues, and those 4 cardinal virtues plus these 3 virtues of this Thomas Aquinas, they together became the 7 virtues of Christianity. Okay, what are these 3 virtues? Faith, hope and charity. Faith, hope and charity. Okay, so this was his idea. Thomas Aquinas. And the final one is Machiavelli. पूरा रामायण हो गया. Now you are asking. हाँ, the same ones, yes. Okay, Machiavelli, very interesting character. He wrote The Prince. Basically a more consequentialist approach, you can say, or that national interest, nationalism approach was there in his writings. Okay, we discussed now that national interest, an end-based approach is there. So, he was the supporter of that approach. He said that nothing is good or bad. Everything depends upon the situation. If killing people is good of a nation, then it is ethical, otherwise it is not. So basically he came up with the idea of realpolitik. What is realpolitik? Sorry? That politics is not based on certain ideologies, but it depends upon the situation. चलो लिख लो. Real politics is politics or diplomacy. Real politics is politics or diplomacy based primarily on considerations of given circumstances and factors rather than explicit ideological notions or moral and ethical premises. Okay, rest I will discuss about Machiavelli in international ethics. Okay, but some quotes are there of Machiavelli which can be important for this exam. Like one quote which is there is, it is better to be feared, ये quote लिख लो, it is better to be feared than to be loved. It is better to be feared than to be loved, comma, if you cannot be both. If you cannot be both. See, in ideal conditions, both love and fear should be there. If both things are there, it will be a good thing. It is the best thing. But tell me, for a civil servant, it is better to be loved or to be feared? Feared. Yes, why? But give me logics.
Because he has to maintain his authority to get things done.
Ideally, both should be there. Okay. But if both are not possible, then fear needs to be there. Why? Because he has the responsibility of maintaining law and order. And the feeling of love is very subtle in nature. In fact, fear is a precursor of love. Love. I mean, from fear comes love. Are you getting my point? I told you that Tulsi Raji also said this thing in Ramcharitmanas, that bhay bin hoye na preeti. Okay. Love is not possible without fear. Only when you will fear someone, you have the fear of losing some. Suppose you have a girlfriend and you know that she is not going anywhere. Okay, you do not have any fear to lose her. Okay, ye kahin nahi hai. So what will happen? You will start taking her for granted. Okay, the love. In fact, you will also start exploring other options. कि ये तो है Stephanie और बाकी main देखते हैं, 2-3 और. So love will go down. Right. So fear of law should always be maintained, and it is the duty of a public servant. When fear will be there, love will come automatically. And see, government cannot make every person happy. It is the duty of government is not to make people happy, but to maintain law and order, which will lead to happiness. Okay, how you can connect it with current affairs? सॉफ्ट पावर का जो इशू है, नो फियर इज देयर अमंग पीपल. अभी ये जो चौकसी और ये नीरव मोदी, विजय माल्या, all these people ran away with the money. Why? Because they know that they can manipulate the law. They do not fear the law. कहाँ से? There is no fear. BCCI का example you can give. There is no fear of law. अभी ये देख लेना, the government also no fear of judicial pronouncement. अभी भी ये LG और ये जो CM का debate है, I know that it is still go on. Okay.
Rise of China in the international global order.
Yes, fear. In fact, because of that fear, people are starting collaborating with it now. Maldives का example है, अभी श्रीलंका में वो जो that Hemantota port, again it was also given to a Chinese firm. Fear के बाद love automatic है, अपने आप ही आएगा. Fear create कर दो थोड़ा सा, people will start loving you. Okay. So this is the basic idea. If this quote comes, that yes, both things are important, but if not present together, then fear is very important. Okay. इसमें एक लाइन है, वो लाइन लिख सकते. हाँ, वो भी इसी से related है. In fact, it has been clearly mentioned in Indian philosophies that dand is the source of dharma. Only through dand, only through the power of punishment, you can assure dharma, you can assure good governance. That is why that when जो राज्याभिषेक होता है राजा का, तो the power of dand is given to him, that he has the power to give punishment. कुछ एक श्लोक भी होता है, दंड वर्ते पनी कुछ बोलते हैं कि now I am giving you the power to give punishment. Okay, you will rule over others through danda, but God will rule over you through dharma. You are also bounded by dharma. I will come to this thing when I will discuss Indian philosophy. Okay, so this was his idea. एक line लिख लो, so long as he keeps his subjects, so long as he keeps his subject united and loyal, comma, a prince ought not to mind, gaining the reputation of cruelty, gaining the reputation for cruelty. Okay. In fact, the things that we are going to discuss with Kautilya, for Kautilya, those things can be written about Machiavelli also. Okay. Machiavelli is the Kautilya of West, right? Because Kautilya came first. एक कोट और है, एक दो कोट्स और हैं कि politics have no relation with morals. Politics have no relations with morals. Okay, to support it, you can write about Machiavelli, and to counter it, you can write about Gandhi. Okay, Gandhiji always said that there can be no politics without morality. In fact, for politicians, both means and ends values are equally important. Okay, both means and values are equally important. One last quote is there.
Even the philosopher king says that morals are important for politics.
हाँ, yes, philosopher's king also, yes. Plato का philosopher king, वो cardinal virtues you can write about. Okay. Then एक और quote है, hatred is gained as much by good work, hatred is gained as much by good work as by evil. As much by evil. I mean, if you do bad work, people will hate you. But even if you do good work, then also people will hate you. गालिब का है ना शेर की, गालिब बुरा न मान अगर कोई बुरा कहे, क्या ऐसा भी है कोई सब अच्छा कहें जिसे. There is no one in this world who is praised by everyone. Okay. Haters will always be there. There are people who hate Gandhi. There are people who hate Nehru. Okay. मर गए बेचारे करते करते फिर भी hate करते हैं. Right. So this quote is, I mean, maybe these quotes can be used by you or they can be asked in exam also. We really don't know. So this Machiavelli is done. Okay. With this, medieval moral philosophy is also done. Nothing much is there in this philosophy because religion started dominating people. So जो secular ethics था, okay, it gave way to religious ethics. Right. Now we will enter modern Western philosophy. The first one is Descartes. Again, see, he was a rationalist, okay, but he was an orthodox rationalist. He only believed in rationalism but not empiricism. What do you understand by it? Pure reason. Okay, no, not senses, only reason. In fact, he also believed in this mind-body duality. Okay, world of mind and world of senses, world of ideas, world of senses. He completely rejected the idea of senses. Okay, he said that we can only gain things through rational methods but not through empirical methods. In fact, the knowledge that we get through our senses, it is highly unreliable. In fact, a very important quote is there, I think, therefore I am. Okay, and in order to support this thing, he came up with wax argument. Wax argument. What is this wax argument? Like a solid piece of wax is there. It has a texture, it has a shape also, it has a color also. Okay, smell, some odor, all these things are there. But when it is burnt, the same piece loses its texture. There is no shape, the color also changes. So the thing remains same and yet the completely different information is provided by our senses. So it is on our mind to understand that what actually went through with this piece of wax. And this thing will come through rationality with thinking. Senses are never going to provide us this information. Okay. So, okay. थोड़ा सा application करना, like a civil servant also has to think about other things. Are you getting my point? I mean, he cannot always depend upon what has been presented to him. Rationality is very important. जैसे बाहुबली 2 के अंदर that राजमाता वो what she saw, okay, that was basically a kind of illusion which was created for her. Okay, she never thought about the real character of Bahubali. You getting my point? So you can understand things from there. And many times, see, when you will become a DM, सब कुछ आपके आगे, I mean, what people will present, that they are your supporters, they really like you, but in the back they will criticize you. जैसे like one incident happened with me also, एक छोटा सा है, like I went with this DM to visit a school, a government school. So when we entered that government school, everything was very well arranged. Okay, I mean the classrooms were really neat and clean, students were present in the class, all teachers were there, everything was highly arranged. But then he entered a classroom, the DM. He looked everything, and finally he focused on the date which was written on the blackboard. And that date was 6 months back. Are you getting my point? And from that date he understood that, see, I mean, no classes have taken place for the last 3-4 months. Okay. So this is what we call rationality. Then he again, Descartes also talked about the idea of happiness only. And how happiness can be achieved? Happiness can be achieved through reasoning. That was his idea. Okay, इसमें थोड़ा सा उन्होंने एक सीरीज दिया था पूरा, हाउ हैप्पीनेस इज रिलेटेड टू रीजन. ओके, थोड़ा सा इसको लिख लो. But see, again, reasoning has limited application. You need evidence also, like the example which I gave you, that date was an evidence. Okay, I mean, no matter how rational you are, you cannot tell that whether it's raining outside or not. बता सकते हो आप, यूज करो rationality. Can you 100% sure that whether it's raining outside or not? No. So yes, empiricism also do play a very important role. Okay. So later on we will balance it. The goal of human life, थोड़ा सा लिख लो Descartes का ethics. In fact, he also said that only human beings have conscience. Only they have mind and soul. Okay, so only they deserve compassion. Animals don't have any soul. They are not conscious. They are like other non-living things. Okay, so we can do anything with them. Only human beings, they deserve respect and dignity. Okay, this was the first thing. Then his ethics, the goal of human life is happiness. The goal of human life is happiness. Okay. Second, happiness is mental flourishing, contentment and tranquility, peace, basically calmness. Okay. Basic idea is to love life without fear of death. To love life without fear of death. Now, how this happiness can be assured? Happiness requires a healthy mind. Happiness requires a healthy mind. Health of mind depends upon developing wisdom. Okay, and how wisdom can come? Wisdom depends on fine and sound judgment. Wisdom depends on fine and sound judgment. And good judgment requires knowledge and use of reason. Good judgment requires knowledge and use of reason. And what is reason? Reason means examining. Reason means examining all our means and ends, while controlling our passions. While controlling our passions. Okay. So this is a problem also with Descartes, that he completely ignored passions and feelings. He said that reasoning cannot take place in presence of passions. Okay. So he was more, you can say that this approach was there behind the idea of Max Weber also. He also subscribed to the same view. Okay. So this is the idea, Descartes. Next is Thomas Hobbes. The first line that you can write is that he came up with the morality of self-interest. He came up with the morality of self-interest and started the work on social contract theory. Okay, like when we are discussing normative ethics under dimensions of ethics, I told you that egoism is also a school under teleological approach. Egoism. And egoism basically means self-interest. So, Thomas Hobbes, he came up with the idea of ethical theory which is based on the self-interest of human beings. Okay, now see, through our next one or two classes, we'll talk about utilitarian approach. We'll also talk about Ayn Rand. So different people have used different ideas of egoism. Basically three types of egoisms are found. The first is psychological egoism. What is psychological egoism? इसको hedonism भी कह सकते हैं आप. Though a little difference is there, but sometimes hedonism word is also used. What is this? That human beings are driven by pleasure and pain, and all human beings naturally desire happiness. Human beings only work for their self-interest. This is psychological egoism or animal egoism, you can say. Okay, that human beings, ये psychological egoism कहता है. This social contract theory of Hobbes is based on psychological egoism. Okay, it says that, in fact, this thing was said by Hobbes in Leviathan. The book which he wrote. A big monster, basically. Leviathan, it's a big monster. Sometimes it is also used as a synonym for bureaucracy. Okay. Psychological egoism, basically man has a perpetual and restless desire. Man has a perpetual and restless desire for power that ends only with death. Okay, he only works for himself. Self-focused animal है. Okay, psychological egoism. Ethical egoism क्या है? Under ethical egoism, yes, human beings do work for their self-interest, but sometimes it is in their self-interest only to help other people. Okay, so इसमें एक लाइन लिख लो. Ethical egoism can approve of behavior. Ethical egoism can approve of behavior that benefits others. That benefits others, comma, for often, the best way to promote one's good, is to form cooperative relationships. Okay, Ayn Rand. Later on we'll discuss her. Ayn Rand. Her theory was based on this ethical egoism, or what we call rational selfishness. Rational selfishness. बहुत अच्छा थ्योरी है, स्पेशली इन प्रेजेंट टाइम्स व्हेन मोदी जी आस्क फॉर अल्ट्रुइज्म. मोदी जी कहते हैं ना, ये छोड़ दो, वो छोड़ दो, बी अ नेशनलिस्ट, वर्क. व्हाई वी शुड वर्क फॉर नेशन? भाई, we are paying our taxes, so there is nothing wrong to be selfish. We are doing our duty by paying our taxes, तो सब कुछ हम करेंगे तो आप क्या करोगे फिर? Right? So I'll discuss this thing, don't worry. Ethical egoism, and then we have this altruistic egoism. It's an oxymoron. How you can be egoist as well as altruistic? Is it possible? देखो, altruism requires, एक लाइन लिखो, altruism requires benefiting others, benefiting others merely for their sake. Are you getting me? So how is it possible? You are helping others just for their sake, and yet you are egoist, self-interest. So I'll discuss this thing when I'll discuss utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is based on altruistic egoism. Just abhi likh lo, just take utilitarianism. Later on I'll explain it. Okay. Now what Hobbes has to say. Society kahan se aaya? Yes. From where society came, or why it came? Yes. Basically, he starts with the basic idea of state of nature. Okay. What is state of nature? State of nature, basically when the human beings are created, when they take birth, they are in a state of nature. In a state of nature, everyone is allowed to do everything. Okay, आपको सब allow है. You are allowed to kill other people. You are allowed to steal also. You can do anything. Might is right to allow concept है. Okay, you can do it for your self-interest. But what will happen if this thing is applied? It will lead to chaos. Anarchy is going to be there. In fact, one phrase is there: war of all against all. Okay, so state of nature will lead to a state of war. How this state of war can be averted? If the people come together and sign an invisible social contract in which they will surrender, they will give away, sacrifice some of their rights in order to protect their remaining rights. Okay, and human beings are not doing it for the welfare of others, they are doing it for their own welfare. You getting my point? So this is the whole story, and together people come and they select a king. King is selected, and then this king is provided with the ultimate power to punish people. Okay, and people do not have any authority to question the sovereign also. This is this is a very raw form of social contract. Okay, there was no provision for accountability in this case. I'll discuss this thing. First of all, just write few lines now. Okay. Um, as per Hobbes, when human beings are created, comma, they are in a state of nature. They are in a state of nature. In this state, comma, each person would have a right. Each person would have a right or license to everything in the world. This, Hobbes argues, will lead to a war of all against all. Put it in inverted commas, war of all against all. So, in order to avoid it, comma, people accede to a social contract. Accede to a social contract and establish a civil society. Okay, the next paragraph. As per Hobbes, comma, society is a population. Society is a population beneath a sovereign authority. Beneath a sovereign authority, comma, to whom all individuals in that society unconditionally cede some rights for the sake of the protection of their remaining rights. Then next para. Any power exercised by this authority cannot be resisted because the protector's sovereign power derives from individuals surrendering their own sovereign power for protection. The individuals are thereby the authors of all decisions. The individuals are thereby the authors of all decisions made by the sovereign. Okay, thereby the authors of all decisions made by the sovereign. एक आध लाइन और लिखो. Thus, the never-ending desire for power of humans can only be controlled by king through use of punishment. Okay, ये idea था. In fact, in Mahabharata also this thing has been said by Bhishma, that violence and war are integral to kingship. Okay, हमेशा रहेगा. Duryodhanas are always going to be there. Okay, in every age, Duryodhanas will be there. Okay, war, violence, power, greed for power, they are integral to kingship. They will always be there. But these things can be controlled through what? Through dharma, through king. Okay, now see, a very important question has been raised by the social contract, that it has given uncontrolled powers to the sovereign. It has said that people do not have any authority to question the power of sovereign. Why? Because if they will question his power, it means they are questioning their own decision making. I mean, in India, what is usually happened, that the moment government is chosen, we start criticizing it. Okay, don't you think that it is a criticism of our own decisions? We should at least give 4 or 5 years for the government to prove itself. But usually this thing is not done. Why? Because Indians love criticism. Okay, they like criticizing other people. Okay, it also raises one very important question, that do citizens have the right for civil disobedience in a democracy? Do citizens have a right of civil disobedience in a democracy? Disobedience, you understand? Gandhiji used to do that thing, but again that was British. That was a system which was imposed upon people of India. So maybe disobedience can be there. But in India, in a democracy, is it right for the citizens to break the law? ये question आ सकता है ना कि citizen है. Is it right for the citizen? Let's say if something grave is happening. So do you have the right to break the law? Something really wrong has been done. No. Why?
Because we are living in a social contract.
यही theory आप use करोगे. Are you getting my point? That this is why we cannot break the law. Okay, this is one logic that you will provide. Second logic is like the harms of breaking the law are more than the harms of not breaking it. Okay, this is the second law. Okay, but see again, unconditional powers cannot be given to sovereign. What can be done then? Democratic means must be used. Okay, people can use democratic means in order to protest against the government. Like right to freedom of expression is there under Article 19. Article 21 also provides you certain rights. You can protest. Peaceful organizations, all these things can be done. And as a last step, okay, a person can also break the law, but for this certain conditions needs to be fulfilled. हाँ बिल्कुल वो सब सारे conditions. See, first of all देखो, see this the form of social contract given by Hobbes was very raw in nature. Okay, later on many other philosophers also came, like Rousseau came, Locke came, and they added certain conditions to the uncontrolled power of sovereign. Okay, like जैसे लॉक ने क्या बोला था, जॉन लॉक थे, एक जस्ट लाइन लिख लो. Okay, he added right clause to social contract. Rights clause add किया. Okay, what do you mean by this? That government is there to protect the rights, human rights of people. If these rights are violated, then the citizen have the right to go for civil disobedience. फिर वो जा सकते हैं. रूसो ने ऐड किया पर्सनल फ्रीडम का क्लॉज. रूसो personal freedom must be there. The government, the sovereign should provide personal freedom. Gandhi ji ने क्या कहा? See, earlier, I mean, when he came back to India in 1915, he was the supporter of law and order. You always used to ask people to follow the rules. Okay, but he said that aspirations of people must be taken into regard. Aspirations of people must be taken into regard. Aspirations. Okay, if these three things are not there, then yes, maybe a person can go for disobedience. Okay, but then also it will only be justified if certain conditions are fulfilled. The first one is, first condition for civil disobedience, the important question hai. And if it comes in exam, 90% will be completely blank. First is that CDE should be the last resort. Okay, it shall be used only after exhausting all other democratic means. Okay. Secondly, the act must be public. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? सपोज जैसे यू आर नॉट पेइंग टैक्सेस, सीक्रेटिव नहीं कि आपने चुपचाप टैक्स पे नहीं किया. Okay, you will not pay taxes and you will speak in front of other people about it. Third is, it should be in line with your conscience. It should be in line with your conscience. Okay, I mean, it should not be dictated by other people, other leaders. Only if you personally feel that yes, this something wrong is happening, then only you will go for it. And then the last one is of Gandhi, that is, the people must accept the consequences. The people must accept the consequences of disobeying the law. एक लास्ट और लिख लो, the act must be non-violent. The act must be non-violent. Okay, so if these conditions are fulfilled, then only civil disobedience can be justified. Breaking of law can be justified. Okay. So, समझ आ रहा है ना, ये बहुत important है. See, if you are playing a role of a civil servant in a case study, then you will never break the law. ये एक thumb rule है, याद रख लो. If citizen, then also breaking law only when these conditions are fulfilled. Okay, and there is a difference between breaking a law and bending the law. What's the difference? Misinterpretation. Okay, breaking the law simply means you are going against the law. You are not following it. Okay, suppose rule is there that you have to stop on red light, you are breaking it. And bending the law, you are making a misinterpretation of law to suit your benefit. Like for example, these tax evasions are done. Legal evasions होते हैं ना वो. So it is legal, but it is not moral. Are you getting my point? Bending of law do not leads to legal corruption, it leads to moral corruption. जैसे कंपनीज एक्ट को मैनिपुलेट करते हैं सीए. Like RTI Act is manipulated by most of the bureaucrats. जैसे अभी एक केस भी आया था इसमें कि like in RTI Act it is written कि citizens of India can file an application. So a person, he filed an application. So the bureaucrat, he knew that if he will give this information, he will be in problem. So he waited for 29 days, and on 30th day he asked for the proof of citizenship. Technicalities. Are you getting my point? So that the same thing can be delayed for another 1 month. Right. So this is what we call bending of laws. Okay. So there is a difference. This can be UPSC का आदत है इस टाइप के stupid questions का कि what's the difference between breaking and bending of law. Okay. So this is the idea. एक just एक इसी ने जो social contract था इसमें one line was said by Hobbes only. Social contract में लिख लो एक. One condition was attached. As per Hobbes, if the Leviathan or sovereign power violated its own responsibility to protect the members of the society, comma, that society could then find itself another sovereign to rule it. That society could then find itself another sovereign to rule it. Okay. So the only power with people as per social contract of Hobbes is to change the sovereign after a particular period of time. Okay. So this is about social contract of Hobbes. Very raw form, and later on it was refined by Rousseau and John Locke. Okay. Rest we'll do tomorrow. Thank you.